This is Elizabeth Cobb, and this is the final defense for my dissertation on building employee engagement through HR transition planning and mergers and acquisitions. The merger and acquisition failure rate has been a focus of social science research for 4 decades, in part because some researchers say that only 1/3 of merger and acquisition deals actually report success. Without HR transition planning, employee needs can be overlooked in an M&A transformation initiative, which could lead to engagement, retention, and performance issues. This problem of practice focuses on the absence of human resources transition planning in mergers and acquisitions and whether employee engagement can be sustained without it. If communication is absent in mergers and acquisitions, several things can happen. Engagement can drop, employees resign, conflict can take off. In fact, an unsuccessful merger and acquisition event can lead to employee disengagement, or employees just can't identify with their new company, its vision, or see themselves having a future there. Prior research has shown that HR plans can improve engagement in organizations and the probability of success for a merger and acquisition transformation. This problem is important because employee engagement and organizational productivity and profitability are positively correlated. The conceptual framework used in this study is the Burke-Litwin Organizational Performance and Change Model. This model is used in research to assess the health of an organization and to diagnose its issues so that a resolution can be found to address the gap, whatever it may be. For this study, you'll see a focus on several of the variables within the Burke-Litwin model. One is organizational culture, which represents employee engagement. Two, a system of policy and procedure, which is a transactional factor representing the HR transition plan. And leadership, which was an unexpected outcome of the feedback that was gathered in this research study. 3 research questions were used as a lens through which the conceptual framework of the study was applied. How engaged are employees from ABC and XYZ with the newly combined ABC company? What was the experience of ABC and XYZ employees during the acquisition and the formation of the newly combined ABC company? And lastly, in what ways did employees perceive leadership as influencing their engagement following an acquisition? The organization at the center of this study is ABC Company. And on December 31st of 2019, ABC acquired competitor XYZ. After the two organizations came together, they comprised a 1,500 employee company with 415 branches across 11 states. For the purposes of the study, 16 of those 1,500 employees served as interview participants, 8 of them from the legacy XYZ company and 8 from the legacy ABC. The primary stakeholders of this study were the employees of ABC and XYZ companies, whereas the secondary stakeholders were the leaders of the newly combined ABC company and the shareholders or owners of the newly combined ABC company. Organizational goals included engagement and retention or lowered turnover for the primary stakeholders, and then for the secondary stakeholders, the goals would have been performance, productivity, and ultimately profit. The performance and productivity and engagement leading to that organizational profit. The data was collected through semi-structured open-ended interviews and document analysis. And the study explored the acquisition experience on employees and how it affected their engagement. And that's why the qualitative interview approach was aligned well with the research. The data analysis was inductive, so the research actually generated the study's theory. Going into data collection, the relevant research of the study centered around the study's original three key concepts: employee engagement, the HR transition plan, and mergers and acquisitions. During data collection and using the Berkowitz conceptual framework, the study's key concepts actually shifted. The results and findings showed that instead of a transactional input like the HR transition plan, which represented a policy and procedure or a system, the influencing force on employee engagement, according to the interview participants, was actually leadership, a transformational input. This slide is another representation of the slide prior, just showing how the key themes in the Berkowitz model transitioned based on the inductive research approach and the interview participant feedback, leading us from an input of an HR transition plan driving employee engagement to a transformational factor leadership. From the three research questions came 6 key themes or findings. From research question 1, how engaged were the employees from ABC and XYZ with the newly combined company? The interview participants indicated that ABC employees were overall overwhelmed by the thought of the acquisition work and the resources needed to get the work done. And XYZ employees were not fully engaged with the newly combined company, just based on the way communications were handled pre-acquisition and post-acquisition. In terms of the second research question, in the experience of the employees during the acquisition process, most of the ABC participants felt that the communications were lacking and the integration planning were lacking, making the transition more cumbersome and difficult than it needed to be. Whereas the XYZ participants expressed strong dissatisfaction with the acquisition-related communications, especially around the closure communication for the XYZ corporate office. Research question 3 was changed after proposal defense and shifted towards questions regarding leadership, and this is where the most interesting findings emerged from the study. The first of which indicated that the hiring and leadership changes occurring in 2020 after the acquisition seemed to revive engagement across the new organization, and even more so from both employee perspectives, the engagement level was transformed by new leadership in the performance year 2021, not just showing in engagement, but also in the reduced turnover and the almost doubling of financial results. This slide encapsulates the power of leadership as described in the interview participant findings as well as anything can. Executive leadership turnover in 2021 was only this low in 2014 and 2016, but company turnover combined was also at one of its lowest levels, and financials had never been higher. So between this data and the interview participant feedback, it's hard to ignore the effect of strong and stable leadership on company performance. Bringing it all together, the study results in 3 recommendations. The first 2 go together, and that is that mergers and acquisitions require an integration plan with an integration leader that includes departmental representation to make sure that individuals through every part of the company are represented and have a voice, And then the plan itself would include HR plan components addressing communications and learning, as well as resource needs, including full-time employees and information technology resources. The final recommendation is that an executive leadership team that is strong and stable needs to be in place from project onset through post M&A. And to ensure an executive leadership team is strong, an organization can use one of a few tools. A 360 feedback assessment is one option, or an organization's annual or semi-annual performance review process and methodology is another vehicle for assessing the strength of effective leadership. This last slide brings it all together, and this is the recommended integration approach for the changes, and that they be implemented leveraging Lewin's three-stage model of change. That's where the criticality of strong leadership is key, to make sure that the environment remains stable for not just the organization, but for the employee population as well. To measure engagement throughout the M&A transformation, the Q12, the Gallup Q12 is recommended to establish a benchmark before the unfreeze stage and to determine the acquisition impact on engagement after the refreeze stage, whether or not to include an interim mid-process Q12 survey would be up to the organization and to leadership. Thank you.